Welcome to Body Talk. On this edition, we're talking about Title IX and sexual assault on campus. Stay tuned. You could stay with us. I'm here with Dena Warren, Dean of Students, and we're going to talk about the Title IX grant that Rio Grande and several other schools received, and some of the media and some of the players that took part in the grant. We also have like 4 students that took part. So can you tell us about the grant? Because you were in on the early part of it.
Right. So last year, the University of Rio Grande, Shawnee State University, OU Southern, and Southern State worked collaboratively to create this campaign. You've probably seen some posters around school. See, Hear, Speak is the name of the campaign. We also did some videos. We had a student advisory board, and we spent last year creating, and then now we're implementing this year.
Okay, so why do you feel that there was a need to do this?
Well, I think when the video, The Hunting Ground, came out, and a few years ago you started seeing the CNN stories, the Dateline stories, the schools being called out on not providing Title IX to students who needed it, or things getting shoved under the rug and students getting forgot about. The university then under Dr. Michelle Johnston kind of took a hold, and we increased all of our policies. We changed some things. We did what we needed to do to be in compliance, and we started working with our students to educate ourselves, to educate our staff, our faculty, our students as a whole. And then last year when the opportunity for the grant money came up, we took a chance and we got it, and so we started this campaign. And
in the beginning, the brainstorming sessions, which you were part of, those were led by students?
Not in the very beginning.
No.
Students were a part of it, but in the beginning it was kind of some administrative staff, faculty, just getting together to see what could we do. And we came up with doing some video, doing some print, and then we got the students involved so that they could tell us what would resonate with their peers. So we asked them for their opinions, and they started, picking out scripts, picking out media, print ads, looking to see what would be of interest to their peer group.
I think that was really helpful because it's been a while since I've been in that game, if you want to say, and things have changed quite a bit. I don't know if sexual assault was less at that time or more, but anyway, we have a problem, and education, I guess, is the key.
Right.
So we went through, there's some videos. One is a PSA. And it's a general overall thing, and I'm the one that did the videos and the photographs for the posters. And one of the ideas behind the video is to put the viewer in the decision-making seat.
Right.
Because that's who the people are talking to. So would we want to take a look at that?
Yeah.
PSA?
Yep.
He's passed out. Thanks for being cool with all this.
Thanks for not saying anything.
I'm taking her back to my room. Thanks for keeping it on the DL.
This is lit.
I feel so drunk.
You do?
Hey Mallory, what's up? Hey girl.
It's girls everywhere.
Thanks for not saying anything.
She sent me these nudes a couple months ago. If you want to see them, I can send them to you.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, send those, bro. Hey, thanks for not telling anybody about this.
If you see something, hear something, speak out, and stop sexual assault.
Thanks for telling Coach what those guys were doing.
Thanks for letting me know there was something in my drink.
Thanks for getting me some help.
Thanks for telling HR.
Thank you for what you did.
So there were some different types of scenarios there. One was drugging somebody. Another one was taking advantage of somebody who was under the influence. Even something in the office.
Right.
What else was there?
The texting of the pictures.
Oh, right, right. So sort of widening the idea of what sexual assault or, you know, inappropriate behavior is.
Correct, correct.
What have you seen any, or what feedback have you seen or heard from these videos?
Actually, our students have been very interested in engaging themselves into what we have as our student advisory group. We've got a group of students that are going to, it's called Generation 9. It's actually a Title IX summit for students on college campuses, so we've got a group going to that next month. But I think just the overall awareness, understanding what Title IX is, understanding that it could be something like texting a picture or sharing an inappropriate picture that wasn't meant for many eyes, and you know, inappropriate comments. We're just trying to create a campus of changing campus culture, but also bystanders. We're trying to make people realize that seeing something, hearing something, and speaking out can ultimately make a huge difference.
Right, which is kind of what that video approached, by the viewer seeing it and not having, you know, well, that guy should have said something, or that guy,
right,
I should have said something.
Right.
So we've also got a couple students with us now, Kaylin Bell and
Greg Wallace.
Greg Wallace. Okay. It's been a while since I worked with you guys. You guys were part of the committee who came up with these things.
Yep.
And what do you think about how things turned out?
From what I've heard a lot of positive feedback from not only students around here, but faculty members, members of the community. I've talked to some people at those other campuses that, you know, we've had the joint campaign with, and they've said some really good things about it. So I think overall it was a success.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it brought about a lot of awareness too, because due to the posters, you're aware of it every day. You see it every day, you know it's real. And through the campaigns and stuff like that, I feel like it's more real than just something that people don't think could happen to them.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything that you felt, I don't know, different awareness that you got from participating and acting in some of these vignettes?
I think, like the PSA, for example, like when someone hears the term sexual assault, they think that it has to be some physical assault, or you know, it has to be reported to the police or something like that. And I don't know, I think working on this campaign, I have gained a better knowledge of what all falls under that category. So I think overall I've just become more knowledgeable about the topic, and obviously I really appreciate that, so I can, you know, tell others about it and make sure that they're educated as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree with Kaylin. Pretty much are along the same lines, but also I learned more about ways to contact and get help and stuff like that. I didn't know there were so many means to it. So just the same along lines as her.
Okay. What else is the college doing besides having videos played and having posters? How are they being used? Are they being used in the classroom, or how are they getting out there?
We actually introduced the campaign back in September at a mandatory residential student meeting. And so those students, excuse me, those students were able to meet our advisory board. They were able to speak and listen to them, but then also they were able to watch some of these videos. So we've been able to kind of open up the conversation already. We're also utilizing those during the Gateway courses. Chris Norris, our Title IX director, is going to be using some of those voiceovers as conversation starters. Mm-hmm. And then our Soup and Substance is back. And the one in October, Kaylin and Dan Robothon, one person who's also on our advisory board, led it and led an open discussion for everybody who was there. So I think the one thing that we're doing with a lot of the videos, with the voiceovers, is just the conversation starters, so that you can get people talking about it. The posters on campus with the statistics and with the images, hopefully that will, you know, that will sink in, so that if someone sees something, hears something, they speak out. And then the PSA, I think, kind of speaks for itself. It talks about lots of different situations, and it lets people know that it's not, you know, Title IX isn't strictly rape. It's not, you know, only a sexual assault. There are so many other things that follow under that. And our students need to know what to do if that situation impacts them.
Mm-hmm. So there were, I think one of the main things that I got out of in producing some of these and some of the, you know, the brainstorming we went through, it was very important not to just have guys assaulting girls.
No.
And some of these conversation starters are you know, with the LGBT community, you know, men assaulting men and women assaulting women and every which way.
Right.
Because it happens to everybody, and it's not always a man that is, you know.
Correct.
The aggressor.
And when we looked at the scripts, the Student Advisory Board, they chose which voiceovers to utilize. We gave them a list of scripts, and they were, you know, a female victim, a male victim, LGBT community included. There was, you know, a male-on-male victim, and it wasn't LGBT. It was just, you know, a situation where the guy came on to another guy. And so they went through a lot of different stories, and they were factual stories that people had written that we had as resources that actually happened somewhere in the world, and they chose which ones they thought would impact our campus. And so it was good that it was their eyes reading those stories, because they know what their peers will listen to. I mean, for a staff or faculty person to stand up and lecture one more time about, you know, what it is or what it isn't, I think a lot of times, you know, people put us on the snooze. But to have students talking to students, and these are their role models, and these are their teammates, and these are the students sitting next to them in class, they know what they'll, you know, what will resonate with them. So it was very beneficial having this advisory board.
Okay. Well, let's play the first one, which is a traditional male aggressor. And this is one of the conversation starters that a group would see when, you know, they're in class, and they can talk about it and kind of define things.
I was 19 and still a virgin. I was fine with making out, but I didn't want to have sex yet. I told this guy that, but it didn't seem to faze him much. He did assault me, physically. He basically surprised me. I tried to shove him off. He said, "What's the big deal?" Then he went ahead and raped me. It happened after a party in the beginning of my sophomore year. I didn't fully realize the severity of what had happened until years later. I refused to let myself put a label on it. My friends didn't suggest the R word either. I told a few of them what had happened, and they agreed it was messed up, but no one really called it rape. Even weirder, this guy ended up texting me saying, "What, are you not talking to me now?" I didn't want to talk with him again, and he called me immature because he didn't view it as rape. And of course, I didn't report it to campus police either. Maybe now, I know I should have said something. But back then, I was like, that's what happens. Another time, I was guilted into having sex by another guy who refused to leave me alone. It wasn't rape, but it was kind of similar. I technically did consent. I said okay. Sometimes it's just easier to agree than all the drama of refusing. I had a drink or two, and we were alone. He was a lot bigger than me, and I was scared to say no. He wouldn't stop, and fear took over. Sometimes guys don't realize how intimidating they are. A girl might say okay if they're in a situation where if they don't say yes, something bad could happen.
So that was the first of 6, and we're not going to show you all 6, but that's one of the things that we would show somebody in a class and start a conversation of is that right or is that wrong? And I think the students acted very well in these things, because I've heard afterwards, after somebody has seen some of these things, that, you know, it's a small community and a lot of people know who the voice was.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, I'm so sorry for what happened to you." And it's like, well, it was just a script, but it did happen to someone. So I like it that it was that convincing.
Right.
So we've got a couple more students here that starred and was part of the project. What'd you guys think about taking part in this? How did it affect you?
It was obviously like a topic that's quite, I don't know, it's not really spoken about that much, and I think that the awareness of it should be bigger. I mean, I can't say it was like an enjoyable project, but it wasn't as much as it could be, really, you know. So yeah, that's all I think.
Pretty much the same for me. I just kind of like painted the picture that this is like something that happens everywhere, because if it doesn't happen at like right in front of you, or it doesn't happen to a friend, you don't really think about it that much. But this kind of like, it was kind of a wake-up call for me. and a lot of people that have seen it.
When somebody is assaulted, do they come to their peers or their friends and talk about it, or do they more or less keep it to themselves? Maybe you guys are the wrong people to ask. I don't know.
Well, I mean, personally, I feel like a lot of people try to keep it inside, or they want someone that they, I don't know, I guess you really don't tell anyone. You know what I'm saying? No one wants to go to, like, speak to, like, an official, and then no one wants their friends. Like, a lot of people don't want you to, like, feel like they're a victim. They don't want to feel like they just need help.
And I think in the stories, that's one of the things that when the students picked out these voiceovers, just, I mean, like in the one case, the boy says, you know, if I tell someone, will they believe me? Or the young lady, you know, said, well, I just kind of gave in. I think that's, you know, that's a victim telling you what they did. That's the reality. So, you know, when people talk about sexual assault in reports, there really is underreported, you know, as every other crime. So to say that, you know, they're overreported isn't factual. And just to understand the statistics, I think, you know, people would generally be surprised at the number of sexual assaults that do actually occur.
And we've got another one here, and this one is a female assaulting a male. And what was interesting about it is we showed, I think we had a conference here full of people that were talking about this, and we had athletes in there and trying to have a conversation in the room.
Right.
And when we showed this video, there were some snickers and yeah, right, and yeah, that would happen. But, you know, one of my points to it, and I think I may have told them then, is, you know, who's going to push a girl off of them who may be sexually coming onto them? Like, you know, like who would refuse that? Well, is it okay for everyone, every female to come up and do things to you? No, it's not. And oh, okay, and then the light bulb goes off.
Right.
But it's not okay. So, do we want to play the next one?
This little incident happened one day after I got stoned and fell asleep in this girl's room. I woke up to her doing sexual things to me. I just couldn't believe it. I didn't tell her I wanted any of this. There is definitely a double standard when it comes to sexual assault. I mean, if a woman does it to a man, it's not seen as a big deal, so I didn't report the incident.
Two, one, here we go.
Okay, so that's the one I was just talking about, that, you know, got some Snickers at first, and then they got it,
right.
I think. You guys have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think the advertisements were really good. I think the movies, like, as you said, like, at the start people were laughing, you know. I think sometimes the maturity levels of, like, the freshmen, college students can be a bit bad, but then they kind of soon realised that, you know, it's a serious topic and it needs to be addressed.
I'd say that it's kind of like a thing that people don't think about until they're put in that situation. To you, like, of course, like a lot of people, you're getting to college, like who's turning down a hookup? But then if it's someone that you don't want to be involved with, or say like you have a girlfriend and like it just you never know until it happens to you.
And maybe even more serious than that, not just not being with that person, you don't know their history. They may have an STD and giving you something.
Right.
You know, and yeah, you got to have all these conversations.
Absolutely. You
know, about your history and your health and all that before you actually hook up.
Right.
I guess, if we want to say that. So we also had some, we did some posters. So do we want to bring up, there's one, okay, there we go. And these posters, I think, were designed around the monkeys, hear no evil, speak no evil.
See no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil.
Right, yeah. So that's what these things are, and it's torn away that you should say something if you hear or see something.
And again, just going back to the thought of, you know, creating bystanders, creating people that would intervene in that situation. We have put the posters up all over campus. You know, they're in the dorms, they're in the buildings, they're on the screens, on some of the TVs, and it is exactly what it says. We're trying to empower a culture of sexual assault prevention. The posters offer statistics and factual information to show the severity. That they talk more than just about sexual assault. It talks about, you know, assault on men. It talks about the impact on the LGBT community. But then again, as you notice where it says see, hear, speak, whichever the senses they're asking you to be highlighted is the larger bold print at the top. So we were really pleased with, I know Mike, you took the pictures for us and you worked with Osmosis on the media campaign, and Rio kind of became the spearheader in this, or, you know, we kind of took the lead, and the other institutions were very happy with the finished product, and as Kaylin mentioned, they're up on their campuses already, and we've just been really getting some real good feedback. This was just our students, again, doing what they always do and just being awesome with us and working with us to create this campaign.
I think it was good that it came out, you know, I didn't really know it, but it makes sense that it was introduced in this first semester, because is it the first 2 months or 3 months?
First 3 months. They call it the red zone. There's a heightened awareness and increased risk for sexual assaults, and so we tried when we introduced this in the fall to create an awareness with our incoming freshmen, because the college environment is a brand new environment to so many of our students, and it's very easy to let your guard down, and it's very easy for, you know, to get caught up in the moment and things to get out of control and people to take advantage of you. And so we just try to make sure that they realize, here are your resources. It doesn't have to be assault, a sexual assault, for you to feel like you have a complaint, and that there are resources on campus for you to go to.
And you guys, how much, you know, I see this group of students, you know, different than my own, you know, when I was 18 to 20-some years old. You know, you've got phones, and it seems like nobody ever puts their phones down. A couple of students behind the cameras are got their nose in the phones. So.
Kaylin, Greg.
So, when does this? Have you seen this stuff come up? You know, you've been to college for what, 4 years now?
I mean, I can't say I've seen like this stuff happen like firsthand, you know. But I mean, I've heard stories, and there's been scenarios that I've been told about which aren't great. So, yeah.
I'd say I've probably seen one where like a girl was just like, a guy was like passed out drunk, and she was just still like all over him, but like it wasn't anything that struck anyone as like a problem. It was just like she was laying on him. So I wouldn't say to that same extent, but that could still make someone uncomfortable if he woke up or he saw a video and he was uncomfortable with it.
Right, because nowadays you've got your phone with cameras and video. You could stream that stuff live. And when you sober up, then uh-oh, where did that come from? I think that came, yeah, it was the first part of that PSA was the passed out guy and the girl taking advantage of him.
Right, he woke up and she was in his lap.
No, the PSA.
Oh, the PS. Oh,
at
yes.
the party.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
So.
Yeah. It's just it's a very important subject, and lots of times people don't want to say the word rape and they don't want to say the word sexual assault, but the reality is it happens, and so we can't be afraid to talk about it with our students. We can't be afraid to listen to our students and to hear what they're saying. And using this advisory board was our way to get into the heads of our students. I mean, the campaign is campus-wide, so we've got staff and faculty also seeing it. But I mean, to be honest, we wanted to create this awareness and to create this campaign for our students. And so I think because of the involvement and the engagement that we had with our students, that's what happened.
Do you think it happens any more or less on a small campus as it does in a large
No,
campus?
I think the statistics are still there. I still think that you have the cases that are reported that you investigate and you deal with, and you have the cases that aren't reported that people just never say anything.
Because you're the dean of students, you probably see a lot of these reports,
Mhm.
or
and it's,
at least catch word
Title
of
IX,
it,
right?
even
Mhm.
if they don't go to campus police.
Right.
So how would somebody, considering Title IX, how would somebody go and report something around here?
Campus police is probably your first place to go. Of course, we do have confidential reporters, and so if you didn't want someone to know and you just wanted to talk about it, we have those opportunities also. But in order for us to do an investigation, that would bring in campus police, that would bring in myself and Chris Nurse with Title IX, and those would be your resources to go to, and then we can offer resources out to the victim and to the person accused also.
Mm-hmm. Would you guys have anything else to add as far as awareness and reporting?
All I could say is just don't be afraid to come forward. There's a lot of resources out there. People are trained in this area to help you out, and so you're not alone. So just come forward, and this is why we do this sort of thing.
What happens to somebody who does get reported? Are they kicked out of school, or what happens?
What happens is we would open an investigation, and of course the campus investigation and the criminal investigation are two different things. And so it's really all a matter of just our Title IX policy, which is on all of our website pages. It's in the student handbook, but we do a impartial investigation into any allegations.
Because I know a sexual assault would probably be different than like a rape, or that would be maybe more criminal.
Right. Well, and the circumstances are they're all different, but the criminal part is off of campus. It's outside of its law enforcement, but we look at policy violations here on campus through Title IX.
So would there be a scale of response
from campus?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You would look at imminent danger. You would look at, campus-wide email if that were the case. You would look to see if it's contained. Do you know the victim? Do you know the perpetrator? Do you know where everybody is? So you look at all of those things.
Okay. Well, we're about out of time. Is there any more words of wisdom that you or the students would like to add?
I would like to say that some of our students are graduating this year, and so we will have some open seats on the Student Advisory Board, and it would be great to see some fresh faces, some fresh ideas, because this is not like a one-year thing. This is something that we're going to continue year after year, and we're going to increase our efforts, and we're going to increase our campaign, and we're going to still reach out to our students.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for watching Body Talk this month, and we'll see you next month.